Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Richard Lewis Show. And it's a welcome change of pace today. I have got as a guest one of the leading commentators in the world, and no doubt we'll end up talking about this. Yes, she is female. It seems ridiculous that that's going to be a topic of conversation, but we will get into it. It is, of course, Lauren Pansy Scott, who you'll know works for ESL. So how are you doing at the moment?
Not too bad, mate. Just had a bit of a day off, so having a good one so far.
They're a rare thing in esports.
Savoured.
One of the areas I wanted to get into straight away is that you don't seem to do a lot of interviews. I guess I'm kind of specific with what I want to do. That's one bonus with ESL is you get the PR team there as well who can kind of screen certain stuff. And if I'm honest, I hate the same old. So Gamergate. So buzzword here, buzzword there. You know, it's I can't be arsed with it. So generally, I don't do that many, but when I do, I like to do it with people that I know I can give good answers to, and they don't just kind of chop and change and take some lovely little pieces out that make a nice headline. So obviously, we know ESL are a PR focused company. Yeah. I think that's fair to say, and obviously you work for them. So has there ever been an instance where you've had to tone down an answer in an interview or run something up the chain of command, so just to show it to them before it actually goes out?
Generally, they're pretty trusting. Generally, a few times I've had to kind of pull myself back in line on a couple of answers because it's stupid. You know, there's things personally I can imagine we all think that probably wouldn't do well being aired because sometimes our opinions aren't exactly the smartest in the world and they're just kind of emotional responses. They've never actually gone out of their way and said, look, Lauren, you need to just shut the fuck up, if I'm honest. So they've always been pretty welcoming to the fact that they accept that I do have a relatively strong opinion. So they've never directly hushed me, but I always have to keep in the back of my mind that down the line, let's say I call out a developer really stupidly with, some short-sighted vision, that could come back around to haunt us as a company. So I think it's more just me trying to be smart about things rather than them hushing me up.
Yeah, playing the politics that we all have to do now.
Sadly.
Yeah, it's weird. I haven't got used to it either, as you probably noticed. It's never been my style. Is there any particular line of questioning that really annoys you, or that interviewers bring time and time again?
Of course, there's the same old female in esports thing. Or it's not even esports, right? The one thing that annoys me more than anything is when people don't necessarily do their research, right? So it's not like, how do you feel being the one female in esports? Do you feel isolated? But all those sort of questions. They're fine. I can deal with that if they kind of know what I do. It's when you get the bland, generic. So women in gaming, it's like I don't know. I don't play half of these games. I play about 4 games, if I'm honest. It's not like I'm some voice of the entire sex of females. It's that sort of thing that just does my nut in. But very beyond
often,
that, it's
the people asking that question are female, I find.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
You're not wrong as well. No, you're absolutely spot on. I've had a couple of interviews where I'll happily give a solid answer. I'll do the run through of it all. But yeah, it's dependent. If they come in and they do the same old, do you feel more picked on than others? Do you do, they're trying to make me feel, portray me as this victim of, this tirade of abuse. I'm like, guys, everyone gets it. And it's been a couple of people and I've had to kind of explain hey, it's not just me who gets some shit on the internet. Let's be honest. A lot of people do. I'm pretty vocal about it. I'll happily tweet about it. I'll be like, look at this absolute douchebag being an absolute douche. But that's more me, and I probably should tone it down as well, let's be honest. But everyone else gets it. You go to a pro player after they've lost a match, ask them how many, good job, guys, try harder next time they get in comparison to, you just cost me all my skins. You know what I mean? But that doesn't make as much of a headline as the others. So sometimes it's quite frustrating to get it, but it is what it is. Maybe some people aren't as aware as others, but I do feel as though I don't like talking to the general populace sometimes. You know what I mean? I feel as though I want to talk to the esports audience, which sometimes I don't feel that certain publications end up going for.
No, and I've seen that a lot, and I think one of the things that I like about you is that it'd be very easy, I would say, and this is true for a few people in our business. I think this would be true for Smix, for example, or Rachel Quirico, who I've been working with at E-League. It'd be very easy, I think, for any of those individuals and yourself to sort of come out and be like, hey, yeah, put me on the fucking pedestal. I'll be the sole
the
woman
champion,
in esports. Yeah. And actually they don't want that, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
And I find that quite reductive, actually. Personal opinion. Is that something that's ever like crossed your mind? When these people are doing it, because sometimes that kind of it can be seductive. You're getting asked these questions, and you're like, yeah, you're a role model for all these unempowered women that want to get into esports. And you think, fuck, I'm a role model. This is great. So do you actively have to reject that, or is it just does that come natural?
For me, I find it terrifying when people say I'm anything close to a role model. Honestly, it's incredibly flattering. You're absolutely spot on. People come up to me at events and they're like, young females like, oh, I always felt really uncomfortable watching this, but you're there and I feel much better. I'm like, good. I don't want to ever kind of turn people away from esports because of my attitude being shit, which it can be sometimes. I'm not always the on-air person that people know. I am myself. So when people say that, I'm just like, why am I your role model? Why not, Henry G? Why me? Is it because I'm female? Is it just because I empower you to think that you can do this? And if they need that, that's perfectly fine. But I don't bode well in that sort of thing. I sit there just like, thank you, and now I feel uncomfortable because I don't know how to deal with it. Yeah. I don't think I ever want to be seen as just that kind of, because she's a female, I look up to her. Look up to me because I'm good at my job. Look up to me because maybe you feel I've had a harder route and I've absconded away from going down that, oh, look at me, a hard fought for woman and all that stuff. Fine, but don't make assumptions that I want to be that role model. Don't think that I'm coming here doing that, because a lot of people do, and I'm just like, I don't kind of adhere to that sort of category. I'm, if you like what I do, that's absolutely brilliant, and I thank anyone who's ever been supportive of that. But I don't want to be known or just looked up to because I'm a woman in that position at all. I think that's kind of redundant in its own essence.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know if you remember, but after Cluj, after the major in Cluj, there was like, everyone was feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Everyone had done a good job. We put together quite a lot of talent. Now, obviously, you weren't at that event because it was a DreamHack event. I don't know what the situation there is, whether or not you would have been allowed to have gone. A lot of speculation about that. I won't put you on the spot.
I don't mind.
Well, would you?
No, it's fine by me. I'm pretty sure nowadays, like obviously back then, I don't think there was quite the, I think not allegiance, I think that's the wrong word, but the partnership,
the relationship
between between DreamHack and ESL. Now it's certainly there. You can see people like Alex, of course, hosting desks and such. I think it's a matter of 1, rate, 2, talent, and what really suits their product. For me, I'd love to do a DreamHack. I've actually never been to one, which I find ridiculous at this point. I'd love to just go as a player or just a spectator, which I might need to do. But yeah, I don't find it a huge thing for me personally. I think it's a shame because obviously DreamHack looks incredible, but I hate the idea of being shoehorned into something just because they need a female presence. You know what I mean? Because I feel that's what came around after Cluj.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it did. It was like, I saw this article, I got linked to it. Someone had posted it on Facebook. It was Swedish, of course. And it was like, one event, $250,000 prize fund, like over 1 million people watching, 18 on-air commentators considered, the best in their field, all men. It was and it's really weird. Like, I mean, first of all, when you're dealing with Henry, that label is so fucking loose, guys like that.
He's a pretty boy. Let's be real here.
But honestly, it was like one of those things, like, it's not conscious. Like, just in case anyone thinks it is, I don't know if you think, like, we definitely don't sit in a smoky room, like, backstage with cigars and brandy going.
Well, you don't have the old boys club going on.
Yeah, we don't. We legit don't. We don't sit there. So Red Eye, it's wonderful, isn't it? That there's no women allowed in our illustrious club, isn't it? Like, it definitely doesn't happen like that at all, and that's what people say. And like I've been very vocal about, like, I held that picture of you up at Columbus.
Oh, and then all the negative.
Yeah, and then I got fucked for that, and it was like, that was crazy.
I think external people take a weird view on things. They see things being incredibly separate or being really competitive or done intentionally, these kind of very underhand things. And, there may be some, I guess, feelings, very competitive feelings to each other as your commentators. You're doing it for work. You need to make money, right? That's there. But it's not like, let's exclude this person, let's exclude that person. It's always been a very welcoming atmosphere. You know what I mean? Like, when people even try and just even consider that idea, it blows my mind. It's like, yeah, I'd like to done Cluj, but whose position would I want to take? And people don't see it that way. They look at why don't they just hire another caster? It's like, well, casters cost money, right? So for ESL, when I do ESL jobs, it's an internal rate. So it's like they're already paying me a monthly salary, so they don't have to pay me the external fee. So actually, I'm pretty cheap for ESL to keep doing these events, whatever, that's fine, that makes sense. Same with all of our other talent, it makes sense to use us that way. That's why they have internal talent. For DreamHack, though, they'd have to employ me as external talent. I'm not cheap to hire. Simple as that. ESL set my rates, they're not that cheap. So whose position would I take out of that? I'd hate to take any of the commentators away from their duos, so no. And then Metas, who's up and coming and absolutely doing brilliantly. It's like you can't just say, oh, we need a person here. It's like, well, who do you take away? But people don't see that. You know what I mean? And it's not as simple as people assume it is, or as underhand. It's just quite simply sometimes comes down to, am I worth that value in comparison to another? Probably not. Metas probably is a lot cheaper. He'll do it because he wants to get out there. He wants to get his name out there, and he's working hard on that, and that's absolutely perfect for him. So of course I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm so hard done by. They went for a mail over me. God, gosh darn it, guys! It's like, screw that. It's fair. It's how business works. So I don't get too upset ever seeing that happening, as long as people do a good job, right? It's like if I sit there and I get, let's say passed over, or my rates aren't quite what people wanted, or maybe I don't fit that role as well, or the type of show. But, and I don't get it, that's fine. But if then someone gets it and they do an absolutely dog shit job, yeah, of course I'll sit there and be like, why? Why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, you're given a huge opportunity, you make the most of it. But at Cluj, I don't think you could say that anyone did a subpar job that I would just excel above. I could probably do the same. I wouldn't say, I'd just do better than anyone there. So it was just completely fair stuff. You know what I mean?
So how do we tackle this issue of diversity in your opinion, right? Because I don't know what to do. I get asked this. It happened to us at E-League, right? There was some local journalists from Atlanta came, and they were like, this is before I think we'd done anything with Rachel, and they were like, everyone on broadcast is a dude. Why is that? And I'm like, well, that's just who got the job. And I brought you up, and I said Rachel was going to be coming in. I was like, it's not like we're keeping anyone out. It's there wasn't anybody to really choose from. And then she started asking about why there wasn't any female teams in the league, and of course this opens up an even bigger problem. Every question was just like a fucking can of worms, and then you open up that can of inside more fucking cans, all with worms in. So it was ridiculous. So I don't know how well I handled that in the end. But look, I like the idea of a diverse space, not like this enforced diversity where it's like everyone has to smile, at gunpoint. I'm not talking about that. But it's just like the idea of like more people from different backgrounds, because people bring different ideas, different approaches, and I think that you end up with something better at the end. That's just always been the way I look at it. But how do we tackle it without it being this real ham-fisted, clumsy, deliberate effort? Like, how do we bring more women, we'll focus on women particularly, into a space that does have the majority of men currently in it?
Yeah, and that is a question I often get asked, and the one thing that I will stand by is that the reason I find esports so special to me, very personally, is the fact that you don't get to those positions without having to work your way there. It's as simple as that, and I think that's the answer that I'll generally give to things like, why aren't there female teams playing on the stage? They simply weren't good enough. It's as simple as that. You want to get to finals, you want to earn the respect of people, you get good, you put the hours in, and you get there. There's nothing physically holding you back. People say, but there's differences in reaction time. Bollocks. No one operates at 100% every single time of every single day. Put in the work, you get you go that far. And it's the same with talent. You know what I mean? I would hate, and I stand by this, I would hate to be put in a position just because I'm female. And sometimes I know it's happening. And you'll sit there and I know why I'm doing this, either hosting role or something, because, the developer will go, we need probably a female presence on our product. And whether or not they say that to me, they never tell me that, let's be honest. They never come to you going, we need you because you have a vagina. It's just as simple as, hey, would you like to host this for a good chunk of money? Sure. And you know why it is, because you're there to be, the counterbalance to the male host. As long as I do a good job and I don't feel I've, put anyone out of a job who could do better, I feel fine in that. And it happens. But coming back to how do you introduce females to gaming, I don't know. It's like, how did I get into gaming? By playing. I simply wanted to get good. It's as simple as that. I played enemy territory in COD 4, and I didn't want to be dog shit. I played in a female team. I hated getting grouped. I went back, I trained harder, joined the main team, and won events off the back of that. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. For me, the only thing I could say is, all right, help them out at grassroots. Get females to feel safe in, get a safe space, whatever. I don't fucking know the terms. Get them to feel safe enough to play in their own tournaments, and then, mix in some teams, give them some promotion, give them a chance to get good. Fine, give them grassroots stuff, but don't ever insinuate that they would need or would want a step up anywhere, because that defeats the whole point of esports, right? It's meant to be the best people get to the best positions, whether it be a final, whether it be casting, whether it be whatever. I want it to stay as pure as it is that you deserve where you get, right? So sure, help people enter the scene, help people get to know that this is a viable space, and it's somewhere that it doesn't matter what you are or who you are, you can play and get good. And that's something that I always loved when I was playing, was the fact that it didn't matter that I was a female when I was playing the game. I was just better than the person I was beating. That's why I got to the finals. That's why I got out of groups. That's why I love esports. And when as long as there's maybe people trying to introduce let's say females into gaming, then fine, and then they have to find their own path. No one can hold your hand through it. No one can baby step you from A to B. You have to just kind of travel it your own way. And do you know what? If you don't make it, you don't make it. It's as simple as that. There's a million other guys doing the same thing as well. Just you have to be better than them. Simple as that. That's all I've ever been able to answer that question with, because I have no idea.
and that's why I think it's unfortunate in a way that you do sort of reject being the person to lead us into the promised land of the diverse utopia that everyone craves, because obviously people might not know this in the Counter-Strike community. You were a competitor, you did play in Call of Duty, you played on mixed teams, you played to a pretty high standard, if I do say so. Certainly I seem to remember you making a few finals at some UK events and stuff, right?
Yeah, there was a couple of I-Series. I couldn't tell you which ones now. It was like the I-37 to 42 days. Somewhere between that, it was top 3 finishes. Came second at a Vita Novaland, couple of Epic Lands. We've come top 3.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it was always these kind of UK events, because by the time I got into COD, the kind of overseas ones had already dialed down, like your Tex, your AEF, those sort of things weren't really happening. At least when I got good. When I was grinding my way up, sure, I could have gone to one and got last place, but what's the fucking point? You know what I mean? It was just a fun piss up at the time, if I'm honest. But yeah, by the end of it, I wasn't bad. I'd put in my hard work, and I didn't make any money out of it. Let's be honest, no one did in those days. But I did as well as I could do. Let's be honest. There were still good teams around. There's still like your TCMs, your Fanatics, your Dignitas. There was still enough teams that was always going to place first. Pretty much, it was whoever basically came beside that or got a good final against them. And I had a couple of goes at it, did pretty well. But yeah, that's about all I can ever cling to for relevance for.
No, but I think that is important as well. Because I talked about it with I don't know if you remember some of the girls that used to play for Reason, and they used to enter the men's tournaments and CS, and they'd get, they wouldn't finish very high up. I think they had a few like 17 to 24s, which is pretty good at a nice series, is a decent showing. So somewhere in that region anyway. And again, like they were so adamant that this was the right way to do it. That we're not going to learn anything by playing in these isolationist leagues where we're clearly superior. That it's no challenge for us. So while it might be better for everybody else that can like play us and learn from us, it's actually we're hindering our own progress. We need to get out there. And I think the community respected that for the most part. So when you were playing in Call of Duty, which was a very interesting community, I always
interesting's a nice word.
Yeah, no, but I loved it. I thought it was one of the best. It was the most fun I ever had going to events or whatever. Was when I was covering Call of Duty events. But what were they like? Because everyone, I know, like everyone seemed to be accepting. I never heard anything about you that was disparaging. I hear worse things about you now in Counter-Strike as a commentator than I did as a player in Call of Duty.
Yeah, I don't know. Like at the time, COD 4 was it was a weird bunch of people. Let's be honest, but an incredibly weird bunch of people who were fantastic. Because it was such a social atmosphere though. Because it was always, let's say, the same 10, 20 teams going to events, mixing a few whoever there and there in between. But you'd always just go out and get drunk together, right? So everyone was basically just incredibly good friends. Whether it be Duffer doing something ridiculous, you stealing someone's shoes, waking up in a cabin somewhere in AEF.
Jeez,
That was
bad.
That was bad.
I've still got those shoes.
Those red shoes.
I've still got those red shoes. What was the name of the dude who
Leo.
Leonidas. Yeah, Leonidas. Yeah, good guy.
Toxic.
I've still got your shoes, brother. I'll tell him. Let him know.
No, it was always such a good social atmosphere that everyone just kind of got on together, and you always felt like, you know, it was not us against them, but it was always just like, these are my group of friends, right? I played against them, you know them, you know, everyone sits on the mix vents together at the back in the day. It was like Nye vent and Andy's vent used to mix occasion because the Source guys would be around iSeries. So it was just a really social atmosphere, and people respected me because I could play the game well, right? It's like, you'd just have banter with people. You'd end up just taking the piss out of someone who you grouped at the end of the day. Like, yeah, I'd be like, oh, you just got grouped by a girl. That must be fucking embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, that sort of stuff was just fun at the time. It was pretty much everyone knew who I was. They knew that I could play. But in CS, it's a huge audience, right? Like, I forget that people don't know this about me, which is weird because you'd think seeing these numbers, watching finals and stuff, I'd probably switch on soon enough that it's not the same 20 people that I used to probably just see at events, right?
It's not, no.
So people do assume that maybe I got to places without having to deserve it, you know what I mean? But it's a different scene, it's a different world. And yeah, COD was always incredibly welcoming. It was the same good bunch of guys, and I still see him today. I think Diablo's actually, Tom Newman's now working with Henry G and Sadakist on their new project. So like, he's still around. He's coming back
doing wedding photography or whatever the fuck he was doing.
I've been trying so hard not to rip into him. I've been holding back. But,
he was stuck in an existential hell. I miss Kaio, like Kaiochi. I miss him. Yeah, he was a fucking.
He was a character, let's say.
Miracle he got thin.
Yeah, I've seen it. He's looking pretty trim. Because me and Alex have been trying to get the old big COD 4 players back together. I do like a mini tournament. So at the moment we've got a really good selection. It's incredible trying to hunt people down on Facebook. Like, it's been absolutely amazing. But yeah, we've got a solid, I'd say about 30 people willing to play, and they're all like top end players. I'm trying to find Stevie wherever he went to. He's just vanished off the face of the earth.
Yeah,
but
the beast. Like.
Yeah, man. Trying to pull these guys back in is going to be quite interesting. If we can, it will be really, really good, but we'll find out. But yeah, COD scene's always was really, really cool to me. That died out though, and the COD scene these days is something completely alien to me. I have no clue on it.
But you're decent at Counter-Strike as well. I mean, like you were last time I checked. You were you were ranked global.
Yeah,
you're higher than Bardolph.
That's not hard. I've seen the guy play.
It's unreal, isn't it?
It's
How
adorable.
Boosted he is.
I'm not going to say it.
I'm
not going to be the one saying that. No.
Jesus. Put it this way: he's in the same bracket as me. I've got 2 fingers missing on my left hand, a left eye that just doesn't work, and he's in the same skill bracket as me. As a young, healthy man. Like, come on, he's terrible.
No, I like playing CS. That's the thing. Like, everyone always asks me, why don't you try and go pro in CS? Because I don't have like 5,000 more hours to pour into a game. Let's be honest. And that's not. I wouldn't even be competitive at that point. I'd just be someone who's not absolutely dog shit at a competitive level. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm fine. I can hold my own. I was playing with Dupree recently, and I think the one thing he said was, "I'm really surprised you're not absolutely shit." And I was like, "Oh, thank you very much. That's really, really, endearing, mate. You're such a charming fellow." But no, yeah, I love playing CS. It is incredibly good fun. It's just like I'd never have the time to put in to be competitive, and I have to do a job and team practice. Funny enough, at the exact same time shows are on, so it's like I could never get competitive at a game like that. It's just too advanced. But yeah, love CS, love playing it. And it was a thread on Reddit pretty recently that someone found like my ESEA profile and all this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, she's actually pretty good." And the other people are like, "No, she's not. I've got that RWS once." And it's just like, guys, fuck off.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Like, does it fucking matter?
But I don't think that again. To give those idiots, and they are idiots, but to give those idiots the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing it because you're a chick. I think they're doing it because you're a commentator.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it as well, right? Like everyone wants to know, like, oh,
what
Richard.
Rank are you?
Yeah, what rank is Duncan? What rank is
That
Thorin?
is the mystery, isn't it? Like everyone's obsessed with this. But
now I think he's even said it. I think he's even said he's like at LEM or something.
Yeah.
And
you know what I mean?
Yeah, because here's the thing. He has literally nothing to gain. Everyone's like, oh, stream playing with Duncan or whatever. And like, he's got nothing to gain from that. You know, because if he has a bad game, everyone goes, see, you know nothing about the game. If he has a good game, everyone says, well, it's meaningless anyway. He still talks shit. You can't win. There's no point in engaging in it. You're just giving people potential ammunition. But I think that's true for all commentators. So I will ask you at this point, is it important? Like, let's say we had a commentator, like, I don't know, let's say Moses, right? Because I'll always use Moses for a bad example. Moses. Yeah, he's fuck Moses. So let's say it turned out that he was Gold Nova 1. Mm-hmm. Right? Does it matter?
for me, if he still provided the content he provided on air, let's say, as Moses an example, let's say his content, his analysis was still just as good and just as accurate, no. To me, it doesn't matter at all. It's about your content on air. Yeah, you've got to play the game. Let's say you don't play the game full stop. You don't have any passion to play the game, then okay, maybe there's an issue. You know what I mean? You've got to put in the hours. You've got to enjoy the game. You've got to understand the tempo, the pace, everything to it. If he was doing that and was still absolutely dog shit, which he might be, then fair enough. That doesn't bother me at all. As long as he knows what he's saying and he's actually accurate on it when he comes out with his content, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, it really doesn't matter. I'd say it's a little bit more tricky for someone like, actually, if you take Moses into example, because he does have a lot of analysis. He does come in with a lot of in-game stuff that does take knowledge. It takes understanding. I think some of the best people I've casted with, personally I really enjoy casting with, are these ex-pros, because I remember casting with Sean Garrison. I think it was the NA Pro League Finals at one point when we got him to cast, after I think he just left Cloud9 at the time. His analysis was spot on. It was one thing I've been looking for so long, is someone that could look at a team situation. I think it was Envy on Cash on their T side, and it was like, well, I know, when they know they're going up against and they've got to face a team who's on an eco, right? They'll always play it this way, and I'm wondering if they go for it here. Let's see if they do it, because they're buying up accordingly as to how I've looked into it. Because obviously he's gone through these demos himself, so he literally calls out the play piece by piece, and then you watch it unfold. And for a play-by-play caster, that just sets me up perfectly. You know what I mean? That's everything you dream of. So that takes hours of putting in, but someone could, in theory, theoretically, right? This is 1 in a million, but could just look through the demos, have a really good understanding for the game, and it does take someone very unique to be able to do that as well. Not everyone can just look at something and understand the actual implications of it, and still apply that sort of logic. Still go, okay, well, people underestimate the pace that Envy come in with on this map. People always assumed that they're incredibly fast. This is another point that he made on their T-side cache some time ago, bearing in mind that they go for these crazy, always fast plays, always in your face. No, actually on the T-side, they can be quite slow. Their defaults really are methodical, blah blah blah. Talk it through. Again, these points can be raised by someone who's not necessarily of the highest caliber, but you'd have to put in so much more work to make up that gap. So again, I think that the content could be provided by someone who is necessarily golden over, but my god, they must have some sort of handicap to be able to hold them back with that sort of knowledge. But still, it's it could in theory happen.
Yeah, and I think, again, a large part of that is down to the collective jealousy, right? Like oh, hey, I'm global offensive, and I don't get to do any of this shit. So it's like everyone wants the little fucking you're special. Yeah, you're special. You're you're validated. And when people don't get that, like, they get super bitter about anyone who they feel isn't doing as good a job as they themselves in their own mind could do. It's literally like, I've done it. I've been a moron. Right. I've literally sat there and watched a professional football player, or soccer player, as I need to say now in America.
You don't need to.
Yeah, I kind of. I'm gonna have to. I'm American now. But I've sat there and watched it and gone, I could do fucking better than that. And of course I couldn't, right? Like, just the idea of me huffing and puffing around a park with a fucking pint in one hand and half a pork pie in the other, trying to play football it's bollocks, isn't it? But I've done it, and I've said it, and I meant it at the fucking time, and I'm talking out my arse,
A lot of people are these kind of like backseat analysis, right? They sit there and they make these assumptions, and some people are very, very accurate. Some people have a real mental capacity to sit there and go, actually, that was a dog shit play, and I can't do better myself, but it was, and I can tell you why. But the one thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand is what sort of level these pro players play on. You could be global, you could do really well on Face It, ESEA, whatever you want, and you are still nowhere near these guys. Like, I've played against, I think it was Scream I played against on Face It, and you know what? It's not like they're a sentient being far away who just operates on this high god tier level. But you play them 1v1. You take these challenges with them. You just get punished for every piece of smallest mistake you make. And people even daring to say that they could do better than them just blows my mind. It just shows that they actually don't know what they're talking about most of the time when they kind of make these assumptions that these guys aren't playing this incredible level, or this team's really disappointing me at the moment. It's like, guys, come on. Like, sure, maybe they lost a couple of games. Maybe their form isn't so great. Be critical if you want in a sensible way, but to assume that you could ever do better is very rare. If you could, if some people can, maybe, then go and do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the big thing for me. It's like, if you really think that you can go out there and be a better caster than me or a better player than him, prove it. You just, like, literally, there's so many opportunities out there. Go and prove it. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love.
Yeah, and some guy did that though, and it was so obnoxious. What was his fucking name? I can't remember it now. There was some guy. I don't know if you remember, but he like commentated on his own gameplay. Like,
No.
yeah, he did. No, but here's the thing: he had a really good voice. So he had a really good. I wish I could remember the fucker's name.
No,
but anyway, yeah, he commentated on his own gameplay, uploaded it to Reddit, and was like, "This is me commentating on my own gameplay." And everyone went, "Oh, this is really good. You've got a great voice. This could be a thing." And then, and someone like suggested, "Oh, you should totally do a game, like get a demo and commentate over that." So then he did that, and he uploaded it. And I think in like 24 hours, this guy had made like 5 threads. And all of them got to the front page because it was like it was the circle jerk of the day. And it got to, and then it was just like by the end, everyone just had fatigue. Like, just fuck this guy. Even me. I'm like, fuck this guy. I don't even know who he is. He's got like, doesn't work in the industry, but fuck that guy. Just straight fuck that guy. So it can be really obnoxious. Like, there probably is like undiscovered talent out there.
Oh, definitely.
But what people don't realize is it's not just about how good you are at something. Like, first of all, you've got to have the social skill set to be able to fucking network and like come into a like if you come into a group and you want to do what that group already does and with a view to perhaps maybe one day even taking a job from one of them, you got to have a very nuanced social skill set to be able to fit in, right? And say, hey, I like what you do. I do the same thing. This is how I do it. It's cool, right? Like, you know, we can share and we can, you know, look at each other's notes and each of the styles and we can coexist. And you've also got to like me because you've got the platform and I don't, right? Now, half of these fuckers, they don't have that they don't have the social skills at all. They don't understand that networking's a big part of what we do. You've got to be likable, right?
Well, I've certainly seen a couple of casters who've, because I don't necessarily reply to a lot of people or voice my opinion on them, but I know there's been a couple of casters, let's say, who've been up and coming, who've asked me for advice. I've given them it, which is normally like go cast over a demo over a VOD, put it on YouTube, build up your own fan base, make sure you can come into, let's say, someone like DreamHack or Face and say, hey guys, I'd love to cover your group stage. I mean, just get involved somehow. This is my work, blah blah blah. Get involved. And I remember one of these guys came to me before. I gave him the advice, and he'd done it, and he built up a little bit of a fan base there. He'd been doing the work, and I think he applied for a job either with ESL or someone else. I don't think he got it in the end. I think someone else got it, or just got contracted out to one of our external guys. Don't remember what happened on that. But I remember seeing this guy going absolutely batshit on Twitter, having this huge go at all the internal talent. Like, I can't believe they're still casting. These guys are shit. I'm like, do you not think I read this stuff? Like, when you're tweeting at me and I'm like, I remember you coming to me asking, like, how can I get jobs? How can I work in the industry? If you sit there and talk a load of bollocks about me, do you think I'm going to go, yeah, buddy, I'd love to spend 3 weeks in, squalid conditions sometimes casting games just because we fucking love doing it for probably not that much money, whichever, if it's not a big tournament. It's like, you've got to get on with these people. And some people just are obnoxious. Like, let's be real. There are a lot of people out there who are obnoxious, and it does take having to get on with someone, especially if you're casting with them. I may not be friends with everyone I work with, but I at least, get on well enough to be able to sit down for a couple of hours and just talk about something we love doing, right? It's enough that you kind of breach it with that professional level. But some people, you're like, how do you think you get on? If you sit there and let's say you trash talk Semler and Anders, which, let's say someone ever does, and then they go to them like for an extreme hack, like, oh, why won't you employ me? I've done X amount of work. Surely I deserve a chance. It's like, well, maybe you do deserve a chance, but then again, you as I said, you have to fit into a sort of role that means you have to socially kind of interact and play well with others to a degree. Yeah. Unless you become so shit hot that you get employed anyway, right? There's very few people who could ever do that. Be literally so disliked or not in that group, be so needed for a product, they still get hired. That would be a real rarity in its own self to have such good content. But yeah, there's been so many people who've just done that sort of thing, expected like these instant kind of reactions like, oh, but Reddit really liked me in this thread, why am I not now casting the Pro League or the next ECS or whatever it is? You know what I mean? It's like, do you realize that, let's say, I've been casting since I was probably about 16 on and off, not professionally at the time. That was just me sitting there with like Winamp and that shoutcaster thing you could put into it and all that stuff, and just doing that. And then you look at like your Assembly Randers. These guys aren't just new to it; they haven't just suddenly risen to top. Henry G and Sadicus, these guys have been working on their craft. It's not like it's an instant thing. Sure, Reddit can really enjoy one of your VODs. You can do a nice like series on it, whatever you want. But it does take a lot of stamina. It takes a lot of self-reflection to go, okay, well, I need to now review it myself, right? Because a lot of casters casters these days, let's say, who aren't maybe as established as others, will sit there and go, well, I've done a good job. But did they sit there and go back and critique it? This is something that I think a lot of casters who've previously been players or played at a high tier level will often kind of pick up themselves, is the fact that they'll go over their own VODs and review it like you would a game demo. Like if you make consistent mistakes, right? If you sit there and you repeat a word, like I could probably find you one of my books that I literally have pages upon pages of just different adjectives, different nouns. If I get stuck on something, I want to make sure that I don't sit there and go, oh, that was a fantastic kill, what a fantastic shot, what a fantastic moment. You know what I mean? Like having that in there and just having the foresight to do it, you know, and some casters need it, some don't. Like I know a lot of casters just turn up and don't need any prep.
Working on verbal tics is like one of the biggest things. Like I've got it. I'm an and an and I can't get rid of it. So the only thing I've really ever been able to do is just take pauses between words and not like, say the right?
Well, there's so many useless words. I say like a lot. I'll do it in casual conversation with you because my brain's not in that mode of I need to be very serious here. But you know, for example, but and but yeah, you know, like things like this are completely unnecessary words, so I have to slow myself down, be conscious of it constantly, and just keep in mind that you don't need to fucking say that, Lauren, because some poor kid out there is listening to you say like but about 50 times per sentence. So you know, it's being kind of self-aware to go back and work on it as well and critique your own work, which some people need to do, some don't. As I said, like some of the casters I looked up to when I got into casting don't do heavy prep. They are not heavy preppers. Like Tosspot just turns up and nails it, right? This guy, I still think he's one of the most naturally talented casters I've ever seen. Of course, he doesn't particularly need that career choice anymore. He's perfectly fine. But it's always cool to see him come back and cast. But yeah, he literally, you know, I'd sit there even for COD 4 events and, you know, write down, you know, what this sort of team does. What's their set piece? You know, there was always this infamous Fnatic play on Strike in COD 4, for example. They'd take over mid shops. They'd huge mid presence, be incredibly like strangling around the map, make it really hard for anyone to operate towards the sites on the defense. And then the team broke it. You know, there's always that return play. TCM then, which was like the UK team at the time with like Vasquez, Twist, Jermaine, worked out this kind of like mid-street push with a B split, which cut them off and you could isolate players. And I'd write out all these little strats and like the counter to it, how it worked, the timing on their nades, and have this real prep heavy stuff in my mind. Even though I wasn't particularly doing like heavy analysis then, it was just something I like to do to keep up to date. And I still do it for CS to some degree. But Tosspot would turn up, headset on, absolutely nail it, and bugger off. And he'd still get all the adoration threads. And I'm just like, fuck, you know, what more can I do? But some people are just more naturally talented than others. But when you first start out, you've got to assume that people have to go back and go through these things and do so much more.
But you were a heavy prepper, though. I mean, you were unbelievable. Like when you first came into the scene and started doing this, I remember you even like sitting on, you know, Ventrilo or whatever it was. I always use this example because I've not seen a commentator approach it this way before. Not in my memory anyway. Of sitting on a Ventrilo with a professional team or a high level team and listening to how they communicate, so you can bring that into your commentary, which I think is really interesting. So talk me through your prep. Doing things like that, any other exercises, what you put into before a broadcast, before a big event?
So it depends on the event, for one. If I'm doing play-by-play, which is most of it, if I'm doing hosting, it's completely separate. But let's assume it's play-by-play for a CS event coming up, let's say, you know, the major or something along those lines. For me, at the moment, it's the only issue with me as a caster right now is the fact that I don't do every event, right? So it's making sure that I sit there and I go through every single game. I sit there and I listen to every analysis segment. What did the people assume off the back of this? Go through the demos, watch it more, you know, succinctly, and try and focus, and then cast over it myself. Because sometimes when I sit there and I watch a game, I zone out, right? Everyone does. You get it on the background, you hear something cool happen, all right, turn my attention and catch up to it. But when you're casting over it, everything sinks in because you're trying to keep up with every piece of play. So generally for a big tournament, I'll try, let's say I don't do a DreamHack, I'll try and download the kind of important games or games I think could be relevant to the next coming up event for me. I'll cast back over them myself. So I'll sit there and I'll just do like, it's only an internal thing. I don't, you know, broadcast it. I don't publicize it. It's just literally for me to sit there and go, okay, all right, that's sinking in now. And then I'll sit there and I'll make notes on what did Thorin say on this point, or what did, you know, how did Fiflaren read this play, or, you know, what was his thoughts on this? So I'll make these little statements and I'll do little storylines. And then I'll follow up with overarching storylines. So when it was like, oh, you know, let's say Astralis coming into the major, what's the main points with these guys? Okay, lineup change, big one, of course. Stand-in, big one. How are they playing at the moment? Are they getting stagnant? What have they said in interviews? Write down these points as well. Kind of, really build up what I'd like to be as a story. If I was having to sell these guys to an audience, why should they give a fuck about it, right? Now, some people will simply go, I don't need that. I like the CS, right? And that's fine. But you think that there's a lot of people out there who don't watch CS religiously. How can I make these guys seem, super, fucking cool to watch, right? So I'll try and sell them that. I'll write these down. And then, just keep going through it, and then I'll review that cast, go back again, and it's just making stats of stuff as well. For the last major, I really wanted to make sure I had each team's default down, so I knew exactly where each player was playing to a degree, how they like to play their CT sides, any kind of nuances on the T sides that vary from others. And I don't necessarily always use these things. These aren't things that I'll use in every cast, because you don't necessarily need it in every cast, because normally you'll get an analyst guy will sit down and just nail it. They'll just spank it out back to back, because they've done the previous event. Like, if I cast with Moses, the guy is absolutely god tier at casting. I'll give him that. I'm always thankful that if I do get him as a partner, he is perfect to work with. Because he's just so quick at just knowing what happened in the last game, what are their tendencies, how they play, and what's important and what's not. But for me, it's like, if there's a technical delay, which there so often is, which is such a skill that people don't know about, is how to fill dead air. Some casters or hosts are so much better than others at it, because others will just flounder. I think your hosting works incredibly well with others, because you can just bound off them in conversation type, and you can bring out their thoughts on it and arc back, have fun, and it works really, really well. But it's, for me, because sometimes, obviously, I don't have to do every event. I don't get to travel with these guys. You don't get that constant rapport. It's, how do I fill this dead air? So I'll have these points. I'll go, okay, well, let's talk about devices. Is Orping recently, is he still being as, proficient with it? Has Karrigan picked back up on it? You can see on a Mirage every now and then that Karrigan's now taken back over. Even the device back many a moon ago said he was going to be primary Orping. Thoughts on this, and just talking through things. Like, for me, it's just making sure I'm always prepared if shit goes wrong, which it often does. Like, it's live show. It normally does go wrong somewhere down the line. And if I do a good job, people don't notice. So it's just that, basically. And yeah, that's about it, really, at the moment, at least.
So the other thing I want to talk about, just in terms of casting, is that dreaded community feedback. And you're somebody who is, we talked about it a little bit in terms of it being targeted, for being female. And you're right, everybody gets it. Everyone gets the abuse. I mean, my Twitter feed on a daily basis is amazing. It's a good place, isn't it? Yeah, it's a gift that just keeps on giving. But the reality is that some people deal with that in very different ways. I'd be lying if I said I used to be above it. Because I deal with it way better now. Than I used to, because it's not even desensitization, because even like last year it was really just getting on top of me. But I just see it for what it is. Like, I guess better now. I got a clearer head about it, but it does get a lot of people down. It really does. And it's one of the bad parts about working in the industry, is that if ever anything goes wrong for you, if you ever have a subpar performance, or even if you do like a really good job, you can still get this groundswell of people that just want to attack you on social media, because they have this instant input. They've got this instant access to you. So what's it like? I mean, how do you cope with that?
I think it's very much a person-to-person thing as to how different people deal with it, because everyone gets it. As said, it's not just one or the other. No one just gets pure love all the time. But for me, it's in stages, right? So it's like the normal shit. If someone just goes, you're a bit fucking wanked during that game, or you were biased and all this stuff, it's just like, fuck's sake, right? And I'll listen to it back. Like, for me, it more just encourages me to do better next time, which almost sounds like I'm encouraging people to do it. That's not the case. I want to make sure that they're wrong, right? So for me, it's like, did I really fuck that up? Did I sound biased? Did I come across in a way that I didn't think I was? You start doubting yourself in a way. So for me, it does encourage me to try and get better. If someone's actually right, they've gone, you overhyped something that just really wasn't that exciting or whatever, I'll sit there and I'll go, okay, if someone's going to take the time and actually give me really good critique and good feedback, then I'll go through it. Then I listen to it, because, someone could pick up stuff because they're sat there listening to me, whereas I'm just thinking of the next phrase, right? So sometimes people can be right. But then there's the other side, right? As I said, it comes in stages. You'll get like the people who actually just, critique your work every now and then. They're quite vocal about it. That's fine. That's cool. I'll deal with these people every day of the week, and I respect them for actually going out of their way to do it. However, there's the other group that just, they just don't fucking like me, which is fair. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone's going to ever like you. You can't sit there and go, if I work just hard enough, everyone will love me. No, some people just don't like, my voice. That's fine. Some people don't like my casting style. fine, fair enough. I can't change that. I can work at getting better, but I can't change it. So it's like it's for me, it's identifying what I can work on, what I can ignore, and then there's the extreme. There's the one that sets me off, which is like the whole I'm going to find where you live. You keep an eye open when you sleep. People try. It's quite funny.
You have had that though.
There's a few of them. There's been a good few. Not recently. There was one recently that is just fucking. It does my head in because I sit there like, I don't give a fuck, right? Mentally it's like, oh fuck this, it's just some fucking idiot. Ignore him. But then there's always that voice that goes, but what if it is just like one mental case who actually decides they want to do something, right? It takes one absolute, nutter to just snap, right? And you think of these events, right? Let's be honest, the events we go to, the security's there, sure, but people get backstage all the time. We're casting.
They sure do, Lauren. I found that out.
It's fun, ain't it, mate?
They do. They do get backstage. So.
Right. Oh, yeah, that joy. So, you are accessible. It's not like you're living this superstar, rock star life where you live in these gated communities where you get your own personal security team or any of this stuff. You're just a fucking person who goes to an event and you just hope that no one's that fucking mental, right? And sometimes I sit there and like, I'm a fucking 20. Well, I was 25 when they were doing this stuff, and I was like, I'm a 25-year-old female who lives alone in a country that in a different country that isn't my home. If when you're at home you feel a little bit safer. You know what I mean? And I'm sat there going, should I be worried about this? Should I actually go to the police and take action about this stuff? And I hope that it's just some absolute moron, right? And you have to, in a way, just kind of hope that it's just some idiot being, obnoxious, being that guy on the internet, right? But every now and then it does obviously set me off because I sit there just like, well, fuck this. I've worked for 10 years, half of it, barely getting paid, and I get some fucking knob on the internet giving me bollocks for doing something I love because I have the opportunity to do it. And it's like, who are you to fucking give me shit, right? It's like you sit in your little basement and you're fucking pissed off and you just want to take it out on me. All right. But, it's when it gets that threat level.
Why do you think they do that, though? Like, what do you think triggered that guy that, like, threatened you?
That guy. Well,
that one instance. Because, seeing you a little bit worried about it, I wish I hadn't sent it now. I would have.
Richard, you know where I live.
Yeah, that is true. I do.
But no, I don't know. It's like for that guy, he started off being very particular. And I hate to give him attention, but just for the sake of the example, he started off being very, very obnoxious is the wrong word, but very clingy in a way. Add me on Steam. I really want to be friends with you. All this stuff, and I literally replied to him saying, "Hey, buddy, this isn't how you get my attention. Chill out. Thank you for liking my stuff." Because, he was all over my YouTube comments, all over Twitter. And I was like, look, buddy, really appreciate it, but just calm it down a bit because this isn't how you become friends with someone. This is just a bit weird, you know what I mean? Like, you don't sit there and go, oh, this guy stalked me a bit. Fantastic. I really want to meet this dude, It's like, okay. So I tried to just take that approach to it. And then he went on this, like, spiraling tirade of, well, you're trying to backstab people. And then he went out and made up fake logs about, like, he basically one of his friends then made a fake Steam profile of mine, like he copied every piece of it, then got another friend from my profile and made a fake Steam page of theirs, had a conversation how apparently I'm gonna fuck up Anders and stuff. Like, he went on this huge mental breakdown tirade, and I'm sat there going, I just tried to tell the guy that, dude, just calm down. Like, I really appreciate you being a fan.
So he's a jilted lover, basically.
There's a few, Richard. There's a few, but he was, I think he was one of the weirdest ones. There have been others just out of nowhere being like that, and I'm thinking, what the fuck did I do to piss this person off? And I have no idea. Sometimes, if maybe that sort of stuff happens, you can kind of see it like kind of encroaching, so I'm building up to being that absolutely mental case. But other times, it just seems to happen for no reason. I'm sat there like, well, what the fuck do I do? You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird one to deal with. So yeah, I don't know. Like, sometimes you can kind of understand it, but others it's just out of the blue and it's kind of weird.
I mean, like I did you like? If it was you, I would have told. I probably would have gone to the police actually.
Yeah, I put a report to the police and
I probably would have done
for the others. Not for that guy specifically, because I ended up just I spoke to Valve saying, hey, this guy is trying to copy my profile. Because one, he tried to copy my profile, and then tried to add all of my friends, trying to just trying to do some incredibly stupid things. I said, look, guys, I've reported to their page. A couple of others have. Nothing's happened. Can we at least get them to sort it out, and they went down their approach of dealing with that one, which is fine. But for the people that have done like the whole, I know where you live, I'm going to find you, you don't sleep at night because I'm going to be there, all this stuff, look over your shoulder and all that. I've reported, I think, 2 people to the police before. And a lot of the times they're in different countries and they'll just, look at it. And I don't know what they do beyond that. You know what I mean? That's a different issue. But it's still like, I hate the fact it has to even go to that level. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, like, trolls back in my day were fucking hilarious. Like, back in like the Tech 9 Cadred days, when people gave you shit, it was fucking funny. Like, they were creative and original with like various fake accounts and just flamed the shit out of you. It was brilliant. But now it's just like I don't know if I have to take it seriously all the time. But just as I said, in the off chance that it is real, you kind of have to do the sensible thing, which is kind of shitty to do as well.
This guy's probably disturbed. As you said, he started out as a fan, so yeah, it isn't nice. But at the end of the day, look, it happened to me on Twitter. I was at Gfinity, I think, and some guy was tweeting at me saying he was outside the hotel I was staying at with a gun, right? So, and he's tweeting this publicly, So obviously,
you have to take it seriously at face value.
Yeah, if you're gonna light me the fuck up, if you're gonna actually murk me, I believe the kids say, right? Then you definitely don't tweet about it publicly. Yeah. But then again, like you say, what if he is just some fucking nutter and it's like, that's what the headline's going to be. Right, so whenever I'm in this and I'm going, this probably isn't real, I skip to a future where I'm dead and people are reading the newspaper report going, and he tweeted about it publicly. He was so brazen. Who saw that coming, right? So like, what I did with this guy was, he was clearly from America. He couldn't have been in the UK. So I tweeted at him and I said, look, I've now reported you to the FBI Cybercrime Division for making a threat against my life, and I've also reported you to Twitter. Your Twitter account will get banned, and Twitter will be compelled to cooperate with any federal investigation that was to come of it. Now, I hadn't. But the attitude immediately changed. This guy was obviously a kid, right? And he was like, no, but it's obviously a joke, the murdering thing. It's just a joke. And then people started reacting to me on Twitter going, what have you done that for? What have you done that for, mate? Not, why is this guy threatening to light you up? Why are you reporting him to the feds?
That's the thing. It's legit? Like, how is that logic? How is that the approach that people take? Like, obviously... Yeah, you do see in that kind of 50-50 chance, don't you? Or it's not even 50-50. But mentally, so they're going, but what if it's legit, right? And it always is that what if. I would say the one thing is that I do get a lot of support from like my fans as well, just saying this guy's a fucking moron. Just make sure you report him. We'll report his page. People are very supportive because they look at people like, what is this fucking moron doing? But it does take one nutcase, and it does take just someone not being in the right of mind, and it does get a bit scary. But at the end of the day, it's incredible that even happens. That this is even a conversation that has to happen in our industry. You know what I mean? Because we just do what we love to do. We have the opportunity to do something that we love, and it's mental that I even have to kind of consider that at some point.
Yeah, well, it's that's a good thing about working at E-League. Like I go into the office, and it's armed guards, metal detectors. Hi, Mr. Lewis. Yeah, cool. Right. We got a guy who handles like talent security. Who's like,
you have a talent security man.
Yeah, no, this guy's unreal. I'm not even going to say his name in case people figure out who he is. But he does all the NBA stuff as well as the E-League stuff. Yeah. And he's like ex-fucking special forces. Nice. I think he worked in the Secret Service, right? So because it's like TV, right? Yeah, this great. Guy's got a fucking handshake. It's unreal. Like it legit hurts. Yeah, and I'm just like. Nothing's happening to me today. You know what I mean? Like just the idea of some fucking nerd like trying to fucking claw my eyes out or whatever. Like, yeah, all right. He's just gonna take you down to fucking Chinatown and he's fuck you up. So no, but security's been an issue at events. It's a serious matter. I say it all the time. I think sadly it is a matter of time before something happens, and I hope esports events can get ahead of the curve. So we don't have to react to a tragedy. Rather, we stop one from happening. Look, let's talk about ESL. Right, your employers. I don't know if you've noticed. They've had a bit of a bad reputation lately.
I never noticed.
Yeah, you never noticed that. No. Bit of a bad reputation in the Counter-Strike community. Yeah. What I wanted to talk to you about was just sort of what it's like. Because here's the thing. I think a lot of people think I dislike ESL. Not true. You won't see me going on the tirades that maybe Duncan does. Although, you know, hatchets have been buried, fences have been mended lately. But for me, I'm getting very tired. I'm getting very fatigued of this everyone versus ESL political landscape. I don't think that necessarily helps anybody. And I, you know, if I was to want the same things that some of these people want, I don't think it'd be good for esports. I don't think esports benefits from ESL going out of business, for example. That said, ESL have attached their names to some practices, to some plans, schemes that are a little bit dubious, that do make me wonder if they have the best interests of the community at heart. So I know you probably can't talk too much about this, but
I'll happily tell you whatever I can. So,
sure. Well, no, it's just, first question is what is it like being part of ESL? Because obviously you care about the community. You're a community person. You came up through the community same way I did. So what's it like being part of ESL when that kind of shitstorm is brewing?
It's incredibly frustrating. From my point of view, see, this is the thing. I think it's a little bit of breakdown of what people see within ESL. It's not a small company. It's not 5 people sat in a room kind of, you know, pondering over how to fuck over CSGO next, as much as it may seem that on occasion. It is a large company with, you know, a structure to it, and I'm very much at the bottom of that food chain. As much as this is the thing from my side as to why it's so frustrating, though, is because people see us as the public face, right? And they'll attach you to those decisions. So a lot of the times when it's like, oh, what do you think about, you know, Vesa? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? I'm like, well, I've not had a fucking say in it. You know, it's not like I sit there and go, do you want to be really good? This, and then it gets, you know, shot up the chain. It's not quite how it works. So for me, you know, sometimes we do fuck up incredibly badly. And I think we're learning how to put our hands up to it as a company and kind of dealing with that better and try not to make those mistakes in the future. Because I'd be absolutely lying through my teeth if I said that they've never fucked up, right? Because I think we all know that they have on occasion, quite some standard, right? So for me, I think it's the fact that one, as a company, they need to be able to address it better and try and obviously avoid that in the future. Try and find a better way to do better by the community, right? And I think they are trying to do. We've got some better. For me, I think we've got some really good people in the right place now who's trying to keep at least the community that I'm involved in the right place. And whether it be a product manager or two, Kennegut's certainly involved. I think a lot of people know Kennegut throughout the scene. He's an incredibly good person to have behind it. Stuart, you and a couple of, a lot of these guys, Matt Klein as well, the producer of the Pro League show. They obviously don't have the hands to pull on the big strings, let's say. But within my remit, I feel as though I work with incredibly diligent people who have the best interests at heart. Whether or not that gets, kind of reciprocated throughout the whole company, I don't know. I don't sit there in the board meetings. I'm not, this huge part of this, machine, I guess you could call it in a way, or, as, the higher ups. So yeah, for me, when shit goes wrong, it's incredibly frustrating because we sit there at the event and we're like, how could this even happen, right? How can this decision be made and someone not go, actually, guys, can you not see the downside of this anyway? Is no one going to call up the negative to this? Yeah. So it is frustrating, but again, I'm not saying that they all do badly at this because that's incredibly wrong, but only in essence to the question. I think that, I think it's a matter of learning how to deal with it. I think obviously like MLG have been great at that. I think it was Adam Apicella, I can't remember his name properly, but his social media presence, the way they approached these issues was absolutely perfect. And I think ESL obviously noticed that, we're all in this kind of Slack group. We all sit there, we'll review events and we'll talk over how other people approach things. And Adam came out and just spanked it. This guy just came out. If they had an issue or an error, he'd be straight there. He'd be the first guy to comment on that Reddit thread. He'd be the first guy to make these choices, to be public about it, and have a really good approach to things. And I think that ESL can learn from that. And I think that we've had to kind of adopt a new policy of just not being too proud to admit that we do need to, kind of approach it from that way sometimes. And I think it's incredibly important that the company keeps that up. Not that, we've done 1 or 2 good events, so surely it's fine. We don't need to keep doing that, right? We can just kind of fall back to the old plans. Hopefully going forward that they keep that sort of thing up. They're like, okay, well, how can we approach this better? So for me, as I said, it's frustrating at times, but you can only hope that they do better next time on occasion. Yeah,
what about just in general, sort of the lay of the land for Counter-Strike right now? Like, I agree. I think we got way too many online events. And you look, this sounds terribly callous, but I'm just going to say I think we do need a few companies to either go under or just accept that they've lost the fucking arms race. They don't have the territory, and they got to stop offering financial inducements to get teams to play in these leagues. Because I talk to players every day. No player looks forward to an online best of one.
Yeah.
They don't sit there. I can't wait. I can't wait to get home and play 3 online league matches today. I think in an ideal world, I think we have 1 online league, maybe 2 spread out over the year, and then I think for elite level teams, everything else is done at LAN in a very structured calendar. I think we need to avoid oversaturation. I think players are a little bit like hostages in a way, because if an online league, like, let's say, some company, shitgaming.com or whatever, opens up an event and they say we've got 500,000, it's an online league, we want all the top teams to come play in it. It doesn't matter that no one knows who shitgaming.com are. All the owners, their eyes are going to fucking light up.
Yep.
500,000. Well, we're getting 20% of that, right? So let's fucking definitely get our teams in there. Plus, it's brand exposure, blah, blah, blah. In they go. And the players are like, fucking hell, another online league. And they've got to do it. And yeah, it's great if they win and they get the prize money. But again, I've talked to players, and some of them even say, like, you wait like 3 to 6 months to get a payout anyway. Yep. You forget about the money you owed a lot of the time. And we're making so much money these days. Actually, we'd like to leave the money on the table, and just have the time off. So ESL, I think one of the most astute things that ESL have ever said is that we do need to have this shakeup, that we need to actually thin out the number of events. And people are looking at that as being, well, yeah, of course, ESL would say that because ESL can benefit. But it's actually true. It's just true, unfortunately. You might not want ESL to be the benefactors, but we definitely do need to thin out our events, in my opinion. Well, what do you think?
No, I'm there with you. I think, obviously, coming at it from a business perspective, the problem being that no one wants to back down. It's a huge slice of the pie right now. It's like, well, let's say ESL backs down, someone else is going to try and take that spot, right? Someone else will offer that money to these teams, and they will take it because, as you said, it's not just down to the players, it's down to the organizers, the teams, the sponsors to go, that's a great deal of exposure. So no one wants to back down from it, right? I think that it's going to take a lot of people in the right places to see that there needs to be structure overall. I think that it needs people like, your ELEAGUE, your ESL, your DreamHacks, all these guys sit down and go, well, let's actually make a schedule with these teams. As I said, this was the thing when VESA came around and all these, companies were saying, we're going to create the structure. I was like, okay, that sounds good, as long as it has the best intentions, right? And in theory, those intentions are good. However, the execution, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing.
I mean, that whole week thing was a fucking disaster from start.
Exactly, right?
Like, the fact that it gets announced by some guy, what's his name again, Sam? DJ John or something shit like that, wasn't it? Some DJ fucker.
Isn't that your pub local DJ, mate? DJ John.
I don't know. He was some ginger guy. The guy who he worked in that.
Oh, right, yeah. The Chelsea fan.
The
Craig
Chelsea
guy.
fan.
Is it Craig?
Yeah, that was DJ MC Craig.
MC Craig, yeah.
Or Craig MC, sorry. So it was Craig MC. Right, you can go back to sleep now, Sam. Craig MC.
DJ fucking John.
Yeah, well, I don't know, MC, DJ, whatever these hip-hop groups call themselves these days, fucking, this guy announces it for you, saying, look what I have printed today. So that is unfucking believable in and of itself.
I do remember the shitstorm happening.
Yeah, and then it just snowballed from there. That was... It was awful the way that was rolled out. And I honestly think it'll forever be tainted as a result of that.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. This is the thing I've always said about this sort of stuff, is that I think it does need some, I guess, body of control, because no one's going to back down otherwise. It needs to have some sort of level of agreement. It has to have something there, because, as you said, these teams are playing so much that it loses that kind of spectacle when you watch these teams from my perspective. It's like, oh, we've seen Fnatic take on Astralis, we've seen Virtus.pro play this team. It's not that, it's not that big, moment anymore. It's like, well, if you had an actual schedule, if you could see a whole season coming through, you get exciting, and you can see production companies as well upping the quality, because imagine if you knew the entire schedule for, let's say, the X amount of time, which is, a larger time than, let's say, we currently have to do these shows. You could add so much more shit. The video content, the actual game content, being able to pull all these incredible stats up, have beautiful productions could actually happen. But when it's all this like, well, we've got a weekend free, better just chuck another event in there. No one gets time to actually make it good. It's simply for the sake of doing it and denying someone else to do it. And I don't think any company's above doing it. I think everyone has done it when there's been available time. They'll take it. It's as simple as that. If you've got enough money to do it, they're going to do it. Let's be honest. Everyone, it's a business at the end of the day. Anyone who doesn't see it that way is naive. And I do agree. The schedule is way too busy because games don't feel important anymore. and actually, if I'm very, very honest, I've actually enjoyed there being a little break recently, because one, the casters get to reset, the teams get to come back in however they want to. They could take a holiday, or some teams might work through it, who knows, but they get to actually make that choice. And then you come back in, and I'm actually excited to see the Pro League start, which is like in a week or whatever time. I'm like, all right, I get to finally watch some top tier CS again. It was nice to cast a little bit of the lower tiers, get to know some new teams, but let's be honest, we all want that premium stuff to come through again. So I agree wholeheartedly it needs to happen. I just don't know who's going to be big enough to be able to step in and go, all right, guys, let's stop being fucking bitches about this. Let's sit down and actually talk it through and come up with a plan as to how to still make this viable. Because becoming oversaturated loses all purpose. The viewership will start getting a bit stagnant. No one's going to be that interested again. But if you do, kind of like layer it out well, you get this really nice overarching season, it could actually be really interesting.
Yeah. And as well, like ESL seem to have like some interesting plans, moving forward, like new ideas about how to, add value to the industry, new ideas about, new practices coming in. Again, I got told that the drugs tests are still going ahead. They're still happening.
They haven't done mine yet, so I don't know, mate.
Yeah, you're fucked as soon as they do. Obviously, you're out.
Oh,
You'll
mate,
be living.
bullets.
You'll be on the phone to that fella who was threatening to hunt you down, saying, "Can I stay on your couch?"
Please,
remember
mate,
me?
I can tell you where I live. Just come over and pick me up. Yeah.
So, but yeah. So I think ESL's a valuable company, and I think what they do is important. I just wish they could be a little bit more subtle in their self-interest at times. I think that would just help, like, just a lot. The community can see through bullshit. Like, you can't lie to people on the internet, right? They just know, right? It's just a waste of time if you do it. And that's what I think ESL, that's like really what they've been guilty of. Like, they've always underestimated how intelligent the community is. They've always had this very aloof, almost arrogant approach to PR and interacting with the community. And there's a couple of culprits in particular. I think of that fucking interview they did with Rob Crosley. Me and Sam laugh about that still to this day, where it was like literally Ralph was just getting fucking grilled, Ralph himself. And everybody was like, everyone that I knew was like, oh my God, please, Ralph, don't. You're making it harder for us, So I think if ESL could just change like their attitude a little bit, I honestly think it's not too late to get back in the good graces of the community, because they do provide some valuable stuff. That said, I wanted to ask you about something specific they did. The Virtus Pro stuff.
Oh, recently?
Yeah, about how they obviously, it does seem that they have really tried incredibly hard to manufacture a world where Virtus Pro come back into the league. How do you feel about that? Because that did put a few players' nose out of joint, but it's a difficult one, right? Because we all agree the league is a better place with Virtus Pro in it, but we also have now got to get into this idea of, if you have a relegation system, there's always going to be a victim. If we find safety nets, then there is no point in having relegation. You may as well franchise. And this is like a hot topic in League of Legends right now. So what was your take on it?
To be fair, when we saw the season coming to an end, so last Pro League, it became a bit of a running joke among, I guess, the talent and people who are not in the area of decision to make these sort of, let's say, calls, if it was actually an intentional call to keep them in the league, right? We started going, they're going to have to extend the league or something. Surely Virtus Pro aren't going to go out, right? Like, I shit you not, we are so external from these decisions, right? But it did become a bit of a running joke that surely they're not going to go out. Like, it can't happen, right? And then eventually it got down to the final days, and they fucking whiffed it, and the whole Mouse Sports thing came in, and oh no, it wasn't Mouse Sports, that was actually a different team, I think. Or was it? I'm trying to think of which game it was. There was one game basically that decided it all, and obviously
the Penta one.
Down they went. It might have been Penta. I'm trying to remember which game it was. I think it was Penta. I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure it was Penta, because what happened was it looked like Virtus Pro were out, and then ESL announced changes to the league. We're going to have a playoff. And everyone was like, wow, you are literally giving Virtus Pro this second chance here. And it's as good as done, because they'll shit all over Penta. And, of course, they didn't.
That was it.
Yeah, the only thing they shit was the bet. And they got fucking relegated. Everyone, I can imagine people at ESL like, fucking
how many chances?
Fucking idiot. Like,
See, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to say I knew anything about whether it was actually a conscious choice to keep him in, but obviously it does look as though they've gone, how many fucking chances can we give these guys, right? And yeah, it does benefit from having them in the league. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a bigger league overall, but it's like, was that their intention? I don't know. I can't sit there and say, no, they just wanted to add more teams to the league. They wanted to add a bigger plethora of teams, give more people a chance. I can't fucking say that. For all I know, someone's gone, actually, can we not have Virtus Pro shitting the bed? Can we give them another try somehow down the line? And now it was a voting thing, the public voting thing now, obviously, to get into the playoff bracket, whatever it is now. There's so many other things coming around for it. And it's hard for me to say that surely someone hasn't gone, guys, you've got to have Virtus Pro in this league, right? But I could not tell you for the fucking life of me who the fuck would do that? Like, how do you implement that without saying it publicly? Like, as said, and even for the voting system, everyone's come out saying, it's a really bad idea to do a voting. But if you did direct invites, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because even then, you're sat there going, well, you've just literally invited Virtus Pro back into your league, right? Like, how are you meant to approach this? And then you go, well, why don't you do a mini tournament? And it's like, well, how do you invite the teams to that? Do you just take X from the top, or do you there's ways they can approach it, sure, but I have no idea of how it runs. But obviously, as an external perspective, I sit there and I'm like, fuck me, we've done it again. Somehow we found a way to just, like, the gun they've had in the hand just shoot themselves in the foot. You know what I mean? It's like, fucking hell, boys. I don't know. Like, that's quite genuinely, as I can say. Like, I sit there and I get the meetings I'm invited to, and none of them would ever have this sort of level of discussion in it, going, so Lauren, what do you think about Virtus Pro? You know what I mean? Like, I am
of course.
You know
like,
what I mean? But it's hard to sit there.
Can all people who earn less than 6 figures please leave the room now? We're planning our evil plans.
The like scheming room isn't accessible to me. But no, it does seem as though, like, it's been a wanted factor. But again, like, I'm still excited at the prospect, from my level of my accessibility, of the fact that we maybe get Virtus Pro and they're all godsend. I'd love to see, like, those guys come in. They had that really standout tournament, went pretty far in it. Like, if I get to see them, I'm just as happy. So I just have to try and find the nice silver lining to every issue and ignore the gleaming bad factors that are right in my face.
So let's talk about your career. Let's project ourselves. Yeah, let's project ourselves into the future.
Yep.
Because again, I don't know if people know. But obviously, you have commentated on other games. It's not just CS for you. I always said proof of your talents is that you made World of Tanks sound interesting and exciting. But you can't agree with that.
Oof, no. Very talented game. Very easy to cast.
Weren't you called the Queen of World of Tanks or something for a bit? Wasn't that
they
a thing?
like me. The developers are great. Wargaming are a great company to work with, to be fair. Like, the opportunities to work for them were good. Like, as I said, for me, it's more just kind of learning different styles of casting. It's trying to make a 10-minute round where literally, like, okay, so let me explain what it was. So at the time, when we were doing World of Tanks, basically the game mode didn't have anyone necessarily being attack or defense. It was just two teams, Team A and Team B. And one would have to better the other. And teams worked out, if we just kind of go through it and not necessarily veto, but just play out every game, no one attacks, no one loses, right? So you go down to your favorite map and then you attack. So this could go on for an hour of literally no team moving. So you learn how to fill, right? I'm sat there seething, going, why the fuck am I doing this? But I'm getting paid. It's my job at the end of the day, right? I get paid a monthly salary. You sit there, you suck it up. I made my choice. So, I learned new skills through it. And eventually, actually, they changed the game modes around, and it's not too awful to watch. By the time I was actually moving away from it, I was like, all right, this actually isn't too bad. And the company, as I said, Wargaming is a really good company to work around, always treat talent incredibly well. So, no bad blood between us, but you do have to learn a couple of very specific talents when you cast different games, because, let's say, the pacing isn't always quite up to CSGO's standard.
Definitely not. But obviously you've done these other games. You've been successful. Let's say CS dies because it was really all about gambling. That's really
of course.
That's what people are saying.
Just the percentage. That's all we need.
Yeah, exactly right. Give me the percent. So it's going to die. We don't necessarily have a future anymore commentating or hosting or whatever we do on this game. So take CS out of it. Where is there any game you feel you would move to next? Is there any progression that you'd like to make personally? Is there anywhere you'd like to be, say, in 5 years? I keep saying I've got to get off camera. I feel like all the fans that have followed my work for 10 years have just watched me die slowly, just desiccate fucking Mumra at the moment, and it's not a good look, right? So I want to get off camera. So is there a job you would like to do, or would you want to stay on broadcast? Like how does it all work?
There's two routes. So there's the immediate, right? Let's say CS:GO tomorrow, gone, fucked off, Phantom Lord's taken all the money out of it. We can no longer do it. They've all got patrons set up. Every dollar helps. So let's say that happens, right? For me, the instant jump would be to Overwatch. That would be the next thing that I go to because, one, a lot of my old teammates from enemy territory play it. I've been playing a lot with them. I know some of these players better than anyone else in a broadcasting scene currently, and I could bring that across. I know the game pretty well. I wouldn't say to the highest standard. I don't think I could do better than their current casters in my current state, but I could build to it. So I'd definitely look at Overwatch. That would be the next, that would be the instant go-to. Which I'd love to do anyway. Like I'm honestly very tempted to just make my own sort of stuff on it, give people the background on some of these players who they have no idea about, but I've sat there watching these guys for the last 10 years, if not longer, in enemy territory, being a huge fan of them, right? Like I literally, some people fanboy over like this, so you get right in Forest. When I grew up, it was me watching players like Reload, who plays for Reunited GG now, which was the old Fnatic lineup in Battlefield. He was like, god tier to me. I fucking loved watching that guy play. I'd sit there and pore over his demos, learn how he does it. Same with the guy Clown, who plays for Overwatch Kings. He was like the smartest engineer player, perfect timing to his play, a real thinking man's player. So I really want to just allow them the chance to be really known by the audience. So I might do that anyway, but then beyond that, let's say 5 years down the line, I don't want to be on camera anymore. Let's be honest. When I first got into casting, I didn't expect to be in front of fucking stadiums. I didn't expect to be in front of this sort of thing. I like talking about video games. I like video games. I'm a sweaty little nerd, let's be honest. I'm not exactly like most girls who go in front of camera. I'm not the belle of the ball in that aspect. There's a lot of better people out there for that.
You've got that one guy who thinks...
he's going to fucking wear my skin, Richard. It's a different thing. You know what I mean? They put the fucking lotion in the basket. But outside of that... I do want to move away from that, and I'd love to go into the development side of the industry, work with developers to try and build something that actually becomes viable for esports. Along those lines, I've helped various companies, building spectator clients or advising them on what works, what doesn't. And I think down the line, obviously, if esports becomes as stable as it's looking, it could become, be it one game or not, be it just, the overall esports thing. I'd love to be able to help developers actually create a game that can help gamers get to that degree. So that would probably be where I'd like to end up down the line. But God knows if that's even viable. I have a lot of friends in the industry, obviously, but it's still a lot of money to hire someone just to do that on the chance that it works. You know what I mean? Like, not every game's a success for the esports sort of environment. There's a very few that have actually made it to a higher standpoint, but I don't think making a game competitive would be a bad idea for any game. So again, I'd probably be looking at that, I'd say, down the line.
All right. Well, look, we're about to wrap up. I've had you for long enough. So just sort of a few final thoughts. Where are people going to be able to see you next? What is on the horizon for you event-wise?
Well, Pro League's starting back up. So the next season of Pro League, I'll be casting, and actually we've got 2 new co-casters for me to work with. One will be Mitch. We're going to try out pairing.
Like him.
Mitch is a really good guy. Again, we're not exactly the most strong analysis, but we will do, our thing. We're going to try and build up a little bit of personality to that. Again, hopefully it works out. Big fan of Mitch. I think he's a stand-up guy. We actually have a lot of fun on and off camera. We are really good friends. So I'm hoping that goes down well. And there's a surprise for the later part of the Pro League. So again, there'll be another co-caster with me, and I'm just going to try and find someone.
So it's an ex-pro, is it? So
Richard, we're flying you over for...
there's no way I'd ever go back to casting.
Come on, mate. No, listen. Spot on. The I-Series finals where you were half cut. That was my inspiration, mate. That was my inspiration.
I've done that. Remember the one with Joe Miller?
I remember all of them.
I did a final with Joe Miller, and I'm convinced he was more wrecked than me. Like, whatever.
Joe has an incredible talent of still delivering in that aspect. All right, it's a fucking talent that boy has, or a curse. But yeah, Pro League will be starting up soon, so I'll be casting that, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, it should be good fun. Should be.
So back to the ESL gulag for you, like. So,
that's it, mate.
Okay. Any shout outs or any sponsors or anything? I don't know how it works for you people.
I don't have friends. Just Richard, make sure you give Leo back his shoes.
I'll try. It's been 6 years.
It probably is about 6-7 years.
No, it was. I remember it well. It was 2010.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's a while ago. 2010. I think. It was. That was a good event. But no, that's about it. But yeah, no. Thank you for getting me on here. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, good. You take care of yourself. Right, so that's the end of the Richard Lewis Show. Big shout out to Lauren and ESL for letting her come on and answer all these difficult questions.
I'll put me back in the basement soon, don't worry.
Yeah, you might be in trouble when this comes out. But obviously, we're going to have another show coming out soon. We've got a few guests lined up. We're going to move into some YouTuber territory. We've got Casey Tron. another woman.
She's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, another woman in gaming I admire hugely. And Uber Danger as well is going to come on the show and talk about his career and life to date. So those are going to be coming out soon. Make sure you tune in for them. And until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.